it's very, very difficult for a business owner to take time out.
Yep.
We just don't switch off. We never do it. So I went on a holiday. We'll call it a holiday. It was a honeymoon. And give me a minute to take a step back and see the business for what it was and see what was working, what wasn't working while I wasn't in the room. It showed the hard work that we put in post-COVID had worked.
So hi and welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. Today I am joined by Marcjon Nimmo, also known as Mark Nimmo. And Mark is the brand strategist and creative director, I should say, of Nim Creative. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you very much, Deb.
Love to have you here. Yeah, thanks for coming in person too. So, creative director, brand strategist, tell us more. How did you get to where you are now?
The long and short of it is I was only ever really good at art at high school.
Really?
Well, I was good at a bunch of other stuff, but like very averagely good. But I was pretty decent at art, and I had no idea what to do.
Right.
So I went to do like a course in college, and I learned more about graphic design. And I started understanding like how I could make my art like for commercial purpose, I suppose. And then I met a girl, as everyone does, or girl, female, men,
person, partner, whatever.
And she was a psychologist, studying psychology, I should say. And when I met her, she was trying to have conversations with me. And I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. So I went and done a night class just on cognitive behavior, just bits and bobs of psychology, just so I could kind of keep up with the conversation.
Yeah.
And I seen the correlation between graphic design and psychology. And for me, it was something that I started looking at design in a very, very, very different way. I started seeing that the stuff that we could create, the messaging that we could use, could actually affect people's mood, behavior, and I wanted to explore that a little bit more. And that's where branding came into things. So branding is the perfect synergy between understanding the psychology of people and being able to create creative output. So messaging, graphic design, animation, storytelling, videography, you name it, like anything that can tell a story or build something that has emotional clarity.
That's what brand really is.
That's really what brand is, So that was me back in the day when I was like 19, 20. And then I got offered a job, like an internship in Seattle.
Oh, okay. I did not know that about you.
So I
love Seattle.
Seattle is an incredible city. And I probably appreciate it more now than an English boy straight from Liverpool going to the US and just seeing a big wide world that never knew existed. And I probably got drunk a lot more than I should have. I definitely balanced work and socializing quite well. But from a professional point of view, it was probably a little bit lower down the pecking order than actually exploring the USA. And so I was in Seattle for a while. Then I went up to Vancouver on a holiday. Then I went down to Orange County on a holiday. And then I went back to Liverpool and realised that I didn't really fit in anymore. And I was like, well, this is all well and good. And I loved the family and everything, but it just didn't work for me. So then me and a couple of college buddies went travelling. And then we travelled everywhere. Far East Asia, Australia, New Zealand. And then I personally ran out of money in New Zealand.
So that's how you end up being here.
That's how I ended up in New Zealand.
Hope you like it.
Oh, I absolutely loved it.
Okay, good.
I think that it has the perfect balance for me. Like I love like winter sports and I love like a decent summer. And, except for this year. We normally have that it's quite good. And then when I got here, I got offered a graphic design job, and this company didn't actually bargain on having a brand designer. They just wanted a graphic designer. But they went through a rebrand while I was there, and they had me lead the project. They gave me my own studio, and I started rebranding their business, and it was 5 different services, 7 different languages, 15 different websites. I think that was 3 main different countries, so Australia, New Zealand and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me solo, first proper job in New Zealand.
Wow.
Rebranding
a large agency from the sounds of it.
Huge business. And off the back of that, I got my residency and I got all the stuff for me to stay in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
When was that? How long ago was that?
God.
Roughly?
I want to say 2010, 11, maybe.
It's funny how time flies, isn't it?
It was a while ago that I normally reference time based on when Liverpool have won something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Only if you've ages.
I have no idea. But yeah, and then obviously we got the brand to a point of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the work that was coming through the door was just generic graphic design work that someone like myself can do with their eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
So then I asked them if they'd prefer to be the first client of NIM.
All right.
And then I started my own agency, and they, well, thankfully bankrolled my first year.
That's awesome.
I'll say bankrolled my first year. They kept me alive for the first year.
By giving you work.
Auckland was still expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously for the first 2 years of business, it was a glorified freelancing job would be the best way for me to
You bought yourself a freelance role.
I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about taxes. I knew nothing. I knew how to design. I knew how to brand. I knew how to write. I knew how to tell stories. I just didn't really know too much about business. So for the first 2 years, I lived a little bit in Vancouver. I went over to Thailand. I went back over to Australia, had my laptop at hand all the time, and just worked remotely and just kind of lived my best life, I suppose. But then work got busy and I needed somewhere for work to live. So we found a little office space, and then, well, I found an office space, then I turned into we.
Right, yeah.
And then we started bringing designers on, and then I think we got ourselves up to about 5. And then COVID came about, and then those 5 turned into 2 contractors. And then after COVID, when the doors opened and everyone decided to leave the country, we went back down to 2.
Yeah.
And now we're back up to 4 with 2 contractors.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're still a very small team, but what I've been working on of late is very much scaling the business to a point where I can take a step back and focus on rather than being.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Now, I always ask my guests, what are you most proud of in your journey? So you've obviously had quite a varied journey all around the world. What are you most proud of professionally and personally?
So my personal achievement, I'm 40 now. I was 40 on the 16th of March. That's not the achievement.
Okay. That's an achievement into that, yeah.
That's not the achievement.
No.
The achievement is after 4 years I got married.
Yes, just recently, right?
So that was,
Yeah.
So March 11th, I got married to my missus.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That is definitely the biggest personal achievement I've had. Because everything else has been achievements, but they've been like real, kind of just fun, short-lived.
Yeah.
This achievement's going to be with me for the rest of my existence.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
I'd say that's definitely it.
What does your wife do?
She would kill me if I got this wrong, but she is the senior advisor for the Ministry of Justice. So she works a lot with judges, schedulers, the whole Ministry of Justice, making sure the wheels are turning and everyone does what they're meant to do.
Okay, wow, quite different. It's funny how we married people look very different to us, isn't it?
Polar opposites.
Yeah.
Polar opposites.
I can relate.
Complement each other in some way, shape and form.
Well, that's cool. So congratulations on that. And what about professionally? What are you most proud of professionally?
Sounds a bit boring, but surviving. I think COVID was very, very difficult for people.
Yeah.
We are quite lucky because a lot of our clients are very entrepreneurial, I should say. And they were changing things to work with COVID, so we were working with them, and we were okay. But it was difficult from a mental standpoint, from people leaving and then bringing people in, and then sourcing people to start working who you had to interview remotely and all that kind of stuff, and just getting through that and having a bit of, I suppose, resilience was huge.
Yeah.
And we've came out the back of it with more clarity about the business and what we deliver. And we have invested a lot of time and energy in our processes. So now Nim is in a position where we are scaling, and we're going to be scaling quickly because of the clarity in the products that we offer, and without having that little bit of downtime, because every business owner out there knows. I wrote a post on it the other day on LinkedIn. It's very, very difficult for a business owner to take time out. We just don't switch off. We never do it. So I went on a holiday. We'll call it a holiday. It was a honeymoon. And give me a minute to take a step back and see the business for what it was, and see what was working, what wasn't working while I wasn't in the room. It showed the hard work that we put in post-COVID had worked. Because I wouldn't have known that without taking that time out. So I'd say that professional achievement would 100% be the fact that we survived COVID and we focused on the things that we needed to focus on to be better after COVID.
I think it's interesting. We've got listeners from actually all around New Zealand, Australia, and some in the US as well. And I don't think that unless you were actually in Auckland, Melbourne probably was reasonably similar, but there's only most people went through COVID. We had that big hit up front, and then that was kind of, life started to return a little bit more normal. But here in Auckland, it was a nightmare, wasn't it?
It was. I think
it was the uncertainty, I think, more than anything else, not knowing.
So the first time round was fine.
We actually had a great lockdown first time round.
Like, what can you do? Like, this has happened. This is what we need to do. Everyone got all the ducks in a row and was ready. Everyone was at that start line, ready to go. And then as soon as the gates opened, everyone ran out. And then as soon as they ran out, there was a bollard in front of them. And it was like, no, come back, false start. And it just really deflated a lot of people.
I think from a mental point of view, it was really, really dry. We had the first lockdown, my husband and I had a great time. We ate healthily, we walked, we cycled, we worked on the business, did all this beautiful stuff, and was like, absolutely. Didn't have much income coming in, to be fair. Like, my business for the first time in almost 15 years had 3 months with zero income, which was fascinating. But it still felt pretty good. But as you said, as it kept coming, rolling again and again and again, it just got depressing, if I'm honest.
It got too much. It got too much. And like, a big shout out to everyone that has got a business and they've made it through COVID.
I agree.
And they are stronger than ever, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be able to do it, and we've done well.
Yeah, I agree. Congratulations. Okay, cool. So you've got back a team of 4+2. So tell us a little about the work that you do, because I know that for a lot of, especially entrepreneurial businesses, I think we tend to jump brand. We kind of think immediately of logo, colours, fonts, blah, 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 which is only a very, very small part of the whole picture, isn't it? So
it is. It's a little bit like if you're not an artist and I give you a paintbrush and say, paint me a picture. You're going to paint something, because anyone can paint anything. Whether anyone's going to be able to know what it is by the time you finish painting, that's...
Whether or not they pay for it as well. I mean, let's face it, I have done some paintings, but I'm pretty certain I couldn't sell them.
And that's something that, like, a lot of businesses out there, they'll splash some colour out there and they'll give themselves a present, and that's fine. But if you could paint the Mona Lisa tomorrow, if you had a paint by numbers, and I'm literally coming up with this analogy now, but a paint by numbers gives you the framework that you need in order to fill in the right spots, in order to create a masterpiece at the end. So with the brand side of things, if we think about it as a paint by numbers, you need those numbers first. And that's where our brand workshops come into it. Our brand workshops are all about understanding where the business is and where it wants to go. developing values and purpose, but also being able to develop actionable values and purpose, which means that you can go out and build brand activations that can reinforce the key fundamentals of your business and people can connect with it on an emotional level.
Yep.
It's about brand messaging. Who wants to hear what you've got to say, and how do you have to say it in order for it to land for the person that's listening to it?
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of businesses do that very well. It's kind of like if you're a software business and you are increasing productivity in the workplace, then the first thing that you see on a website is software to increase productivity. And then you've got 50 other software businesses that use exactly the same caption, and there's no tone of voice and there's nothing of real substance there. And then you just start
or personality
into the noise. There's no personality.
Yeah.
Then we look at your customer personas. So, we build your customer personas. So we don't just look at who your ideal customer is. We start thinking about where they'll see your brand, how they interact with your brand, who their close circle of friends are. We start focusing more on if your brand lived in their life, where would it live?
Yeah.
Because that's where you need to play. And then if that's where you need to play, what type of messaging do you need to create? What type of visual appearance do you need to have?
Yeah.
What story do you need to tell? Like, what key things are important to the people at that moment in time?
Mm-hmm.
I said something a while ago to a group of accountants. If they had a billboard in Newmarket and it was like really, really high up in the air, and it said something along the lines of allowing you to look down on your business while we look at your numbers. There's situational messaging that's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be very different to a sign that's on the back of a car, which could say something along the lines of watching your numbers while you watch the road.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, that's got a bit of personality to it. And not everyone could get away with doing that. But when you start building your brand fundamentals and you build that tone of voice, you do have the ability to be able to create that kind of messaging and be situational with it. And when you start figuring out where your customers are, what they're doing, what newspapers they're reading, who they're talking to, where they spend most of the time, you build your own framework about where you need to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
You take that communication, you take your brand tone of voice, you put them together, and then you start creating some effectiveness with the marketing that you do. Off the back of that, we also look at competition. It's huge. A lot of businesses are mispositioned. Some businesses have a very low value, and then I suppose they have a really low value, but they look like rich. They look prestigious. They look like it's going to cost $1 million to work with them. So some people who are looking for them and immediately look at how they look and like, no, it's a bit Gucci for me, I can't do that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas the price point's actually reasonable, but no one gets to the price point because they see something at face value. And then the flip side of that is the fact that you might be super expensive and you look cheap.
Yeah.
And then you have so many people climbing over each other to be like, look, we want to work with you. And then as soon as you've spent all the time and energy with that customer and you get to the dollar sign,
the pricing,
like, I'm sorry, that's too expensive.
Yeah.
So building a little bit of balance and understanding what your brand is, what it offers and who it offers it to, and who else in the market is filling the same criteria as you. They're your competition. It's not. That's why I always say businesses in your industry versus competition.
Yep.
Because there's businesses in your industry that you don't want to be. They might be more expensive. They might be cheaper. You know where your position needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to focus on everyone around that position. And then you do some competitor analysis, find out what works, what doesn't work, why their customers use them. You find out all the traits that you need to find out. And then you take that information with all the brand fundamentals that you've developed, and then you've got a way to be able to communicate and talk to people at a price point or at a visual representation that they're comfortable to look at.
Yeah.
And often.
So if you're doing it properly, you're actually weeding out people who are never going to be your customer before they even come to you, aren't you?
A Samsung owner is never going to walk into an Apple shop.
That's my husband. He hates Apple.
He loves
it.
Yeah, my missus is Samsung all day long.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. It's not. And I think that if you were to talk to anyone at Apple, or if you were to talk to Steve Jobs way back when,
Yep.
if you don't like Apple, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't use them.
Yeah.
We're not forcing everyone on the planet to use it. We're forcing the people that want to use it to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of businesses struggle that. We had an example a minute ago where someone does everything for everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
And struggles to have any form of clarity behind the business that they take to market. Whereas if you cut off a few appendages, even if you don't want to cut them off, just so you can have a little bit more clarity, focus, and direction, you're going to go further.
Yeah. I actually use the example because we have this, when we talk with our clients, we talk about their target market and who their ideal client is. So we're not talking about personas, but it's the ideal client. And they often, when I ask them, well, who do you actually look after? They go, everybody. It's like, well, you can't look after everybody because, if you're everything to everybody, you're not going to be anything to anybody. Yeah, that's right. And so I always use the example of Facebook, and I know it's it's changed a lot over the years, but I say, what was Facebook originally designed for? And they'll say, it was it was at Yale or Harvard, and it was to basically find the hot girls in the classes. That's what it was all about, was finding the hot girls in the right classes. And it's grown over time. But when they first launched it, it was really, really focused on that. Now, that doesn't mean, if you really, really focus on something, it doesn't mean you're going to say no to somebody else who comes along who may not absolutely meet that criteria. But at least you're putting effort into, dealing with one part of the market rather than trying to be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
And we use, in EOS, we say we work with clients between 10 and 250 staff who are prepared to be open, honest and vulnerable, a whole lot of other things. It doesn't mean that if somebody comes into me and they happen to have 9 staff, I don't go, oh, no, sorry, you don't meet my criteria, I can't work with you. It's designed to attract the right people. Yeah.
It is. And I think a lot of businesses struggle with that.
Yeah.
And it really takes its toll on messaging.
Well, because it becomes verbose, doesn't it? In terms of, if you're trying to be 5 things to 5 different people,
I would argue that as long as you've got clarity within your brand, if you're going to do 5 different things, that's what your marketing campaigns are for.
Right.
That's
so they're
where you
quite
can
specific.
measure your efforts, right? I suppose that if you've got a brand that that sells an $8,000 product, not everyone can afford $8,000 for any kind of product, right? However, if that's what you do and that's where your focal point is, that's great. But if you were to do a one-to-many workshop, or if you were to do a mini workshop for startup businesses, there's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
But they're marketing campaigns.
Yes.
If they work well and people enjoy them and you see value and obviously the revenue is good, then turn them into products. They'll start being other arms to the business, but they're never your primary. Yeah. And I think that people forget that. They focus on trying to, they're all as equally important. If you look at the numbers, if you re-engineer the profit from your products and you realize that they're all bang on level, then you're lucky. Yeah. But 9 times out of 10, there's going to be difference.
There's a leader. There's something that really is a profitable. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. And so what are the lessons that you've learned in terms of building your own business? Because like you said, when you first started, it was you and you didn't have a business, and now you've got staff, you've got processes. What have been the biggest challenges in the process of growing a business?
So my mum and dad would hate me for saying this.
Okay, good.
But being an only child is a massive hindrance when running a business, in my opinion. There's probably hundreds of only childs out there that are super successful and they've done really well in life. But for me, being an only child, I never really knew what it was like to have to work with people. Yeah. So it was always...
I hadn't thought about that because I had a brother. So,
exactly. So one of the things for me, it's like when you look at businesses that have like 2 directors or 3 directors, they always do that little bit better because they have a unit that work together. When you're on your own and you're stuck inside your own head, things just happen slower. But I think for me, it took me a long time to figure out how to bring the right people around me for me to move forward, without feeling like I had to do everything myself. And if I couldn't do everything myself, then I was failing. And that was a problem for me. One of the key things that I was taught, it wasn't that long ago, it was maybe like 5 years ago, maybe just before COVID. One of the things I was taught was if you focus too much on the stuff that you're not good at, you're never going to go anywhere.
Right.
And then I started I brought on a business coach.
Yep.
Never thought I'd do that, but I did. And off the back of it, I've learned so much more about the numbers that I need to focus on for my business. The sales processes that we've developed they've been huge for us moving forward. Then I started looking at our brand affiliations. So who do we partner with that actually moves us forward?
Yeah.
And again, it was with us, it was like, or with me, I should say, it was very much about trying to control every part of the narrative because I had trouble letting go.
Yep.
And I think that
the first time I've heard that, yeah.
But I think now I'm in a position where I've let go of little things so much now that it's made me a bit more confident to let go a little bit more. And I have confidence in the people around Nim who can help us deliver a better product.
Yeah.
Or they can help my business run better through, I'd say, accountants. You need a good accountant.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But you also need an accountant that has the same kind of ambition and drive for their own business as you do for yours, because they will push you forward 100%.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you stuff that you don't want to hear, like pay the tax man on time.
Yep.
Everything that they're doing is coming from a spot of professionalism, and that's something that you do not have as a business owner to talk about. Pay the tax man. They're like, I will at some point.
Yeah.
It can wait, but that's why you need an accountant, a business coach as well, someone in sales. If you know anyone who's good at sales and you're a business owner, like for a creative, it's very difficult for a creative to sell.
Yes.
Because if you think about artists, when they put a picture up on the wall and they need to sell that picture, they have a curator.
Yeah.
Salvador Dali was never stood in front of a painting being like, does anyone want to buy this? Right?
Yeah.
We find it horrible. It kind of hurts us a little bit inside to sell what we do.
Sure.
And having someone in the sales spectrum that can help you move forward. Same with marketing as well.
Yep.
Marketing's such a convoluted world. It's just, there's just so many different parts to marketing, and it doesn't get easier with different social media platforms coming out, or different algorithms getting changed, or Google bringing out that GA4 that kind of mess people out for a little bit.
Yep.
But it does help when you have someone there that can kind of just oversee all of that. So I would say that one of the key things for any business owners, if you're sat there and you're stressing about accounts, or you're stressing about a marketing idea that you've got, or you're stressing out about being able to build a brand or being able to generate sales, then connect with those people and make sure that as long as you have as long as you have a bit of banter, like you feel good in that person's presence, then 9 times out of 10 they'll be a good fit for you to move forward, because they'll want the best for you as much as you want the best for them.
I do like your thing about saying that make sure the accountant has the same drive for their business as well, because there's different types of accountants, let's be honest.
I had an accountant for 3 years, and they did everything they needed to do by the book.
Yep.
We didn't go anywhere.
And that's the thing. I mean, there's a governance and compliance side of accounting, and then there's actual accountants who add value by being strategic about the business and looking at how you can structure your debt, looking at how you can, different ways of doing things. They're looking forward rather than necessarily looking backwards. Yeah. Whereas you have to do the compliance. You've got to pay the tax man. You've got to make sure you get your GST returns in on time, et cetera, and that they're accurate. But it doesn't help grow the business.
No. What helps grow the business is you knowing that that's looked after, so you can focus on something of importance to the business.
Fair enough. Please, you find a good one. So I always ask the people who come on the show to kind of give some tips for people who are listening in. Now, we've got you on here both as a business owner, but also as an expert in the whole branding space. So in terms of tips and tools, what have you got that you can share that you've either learned through your journey? You already shared a couple already, of course, but, in terms of also in terms of branding and what branding is for them.
So I'd say there's 3 books that I would say anyone should read.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I won't be the first person to say the first one. but Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, yes. Actually, I haven't heard about that for a long, long time, but yes.
No.
So it's a game changer, isn't it, in terms of the way you think about things.
I've reread it. For any business owner, I think it makes so much sense to just read that book. Or I'm a very slow reader, so audiobook is something I use quite a lot.
Audible.
There's a book, Zag, by Marcjon Nimmo.
Okay.
And Zag is a book about an agency owner who goes through a whole bunch of difficulties, like unproductive staff, all that kind of stuff. And he has a business coach.
Mm-hmm.
And this business coach is like, get rid of them, manage them out, or do this, or do that, or write a number down on a piece of paper, leave it in your drawer for 5 years, and then this is what we'll sell your business for, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it really puts you into perspective, like whether you're an agency owner or not. Obviously, I am, so it kind of it felt like home for me a little bit.
Yeah.
But just listening to the stuff that they were talking about the struggles that people go through, about how much a lot of small businesses put a lot of eggs in one basket, and if that one basket gets dropped, the whole business can fall over overnight. Just little things like that.
My first business that went to receivership was exactly that. We had a massive client over in the US, and they pulled the pin with very, very little notice. It was we thought we could get through it, but we didn't.
Again, it is difficult. And just give me 1 second.
That's okay.
So the other book is by a Kiwi guy called James Herman, and it's called Future Demand. And if you know nothing about branding, James has got a really, really good way of being able to clearly explain stuff to people. Yep. So that book's really good, and it's got heaps of insight and stuff into it as well. So I'd say my first one is read 3 books. Yeah. For sure. Read those 3 books.
Actually, just while we're talking about books too, you actually made a really interesting comment earlier on about finding people who can actually help you with your business. And there's a really great book by Dan Sullivan called Who Not How. And he talks about that exact philosophy. It's like, don't worry about how you're going to do it, but find someone, a who can actually help you get out there. So and we don't do that very often. I tend to do it quite naturally, but for a lot of people, they don't think about that. They just kind of go, but I don't know how I'm going to get to that massive target. It's like, don't worry about the how. Go find someone who can help you do it. Yeah. Okay, so 3 books.
It's definitely a different mindset. Right?
Yes.
To go with the who.
Yep.
Yeah. Top tip in branding.
Yeah.
A top tip in branding. I've got, so I did put, as I said, I put a post out on LinkedIn the other day, but one of the main ones that I've got is know what your purpose is and how to communicate it. So a lot of people might have this big audacious goal, and they might have this purpose that drives the business, and they might tell their team about it all the time, but they don't do anything like with brand activations or events, or they don't do anything to actually let people feel what that purpose is.
Yep.
A lot of people just use it as a word, stick it on the wall and move forward, and I don't think that is the best way to do things. I think people need to be immersed in what that purpose is.
Which I think Steve Jobs did really well with Apple.
Incredibly so. Yeah. Incredibly so. And I think that that's something that people need to do. If you have a purpose and it's strong and everyone believes it, try and find a way to build a platform where you can invite your customers, your competition, your clients, everyone into the same room and let them feel the journey, let them feel that purpose.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee people will walk out of it and know a lot more about what your brand stands for. I also say, see how you stack up against other businesses in your industry. A lot of people just put their head down and move forward, and they forget about what's going on. There's people out there that are just natural born innovators, and you could be doing really well, and then you've got a couple of competitors or people in your industry in exactly the same spot as you are. They might just have a couple of little ideas that lift them to that next level. Yep. You get left behind. It's very important to know what's going on in your world. And what we've just mentioned about who's in your circle.
Yeah.
If you're building a brand, it's not just about building a brand for your audience. It's about building a brand and being affiliated with other brands that share the same values or have the same purpose, and they want to move forward. They will all move forward together.
Yes.
And if you've got a strong circle, and say for argument's sake, our social media partner, if she decided she was going to have an event tomorrow I know 5 businesses that would be there in a heartbeat to
Yep.
be the backbone to make sure that was the best event that people could attend.
Yeah.
And we all work together on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's super important.
Yeah.
Like if you're building a brand, if you own an IT company that specializes in data recovery or data backup, great, stay in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you've got a hardware specialist that you bring into the fold, bring them in. If you've got a VoIP specialist,
Yes.
bring them in. Like make sure you've got the right people around you.
Yeah.
So when you do go out, you go out bigger, stronger, more confident, and you know where your lanes are, and you support each other and move forward. Because otherwise, you do the thing I did for the last 4 years, or for the first 4 years of business, and focus on just being able to do everything for everyone because I knew I could.
Yep.
I just didn't know that I had no time to do it. Right.
Yeah, I had the same issue myself because I'm actually from a sales and marketing background originally, and then sort of went into general management roles and whatnot. And then when I started doing coaching, they'd say to me, "Oh, well, can you help us with our sales planning?" "Yeah, sure, I can do that." "Oh, yeah, it was a marketing strategy." "Sure, I can do that." "Social media?" "Yeah, sure, I can do that." And then you found yourself like I was working ridiculous hours trying to do all this stuff that I'd said yes to, which I could do, but it actually wasn't we talk about our unique ability. Like, what is your absolute unique ability, which is the stuff that you're not only really great at, but you truly love as well. And that's where you should spend most of your time. Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah, because it feeds you. It feeds you internally. It gives you energy, and it means you're not working ridiculous hours.
Yeah. And all the other little bits that you do take energy away from you. If you're doing stuff that you absolutely love to do and you were born to do it, then it's like you're getting up on a high every single day to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And let everyone else do all the other bits.
And because other people they'll also love it. I mean, this is what I would say. The stuff that you don't like, there'll be a high. I mean, I remember being married to my first husband was an accountant, and it's like for 14 years we were together. I never really got accounting at all. Like I can read the books. I can certainly do financial papers and stuff for boards, but I just didn't ever understand how. But he loved it. Put him in front of an Excel spreadsheet, and he was in heaven. So there will always be somebody who will love the way that I love my EOS stuff. There'll be somebody who loves accounting and spreadsheets like that as well. So
They will.
So let them do it. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so what does your ideal client look like? Like, who do you work with? Who is your perfect client, if you like?
Sure, that's very interesting.
Put you on the spot, I know.
Considering we work a lot on developing customer performance for other people, you'd like to think I'd be able to say something straight off the bat. But to be honest, I can think of 2 clients that we've got right now that are incredible clients. One of the main similarities, they're not the same in size, but one of the main similarities they've got is they understand the importance of developing a brand and building brand culture within their business.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that, there is certain fundamentals you need to put in play in order to make that work.
Sure.
So one client is, I think there's 6 of them. There is 6 of them, and they are doing overseas recruitment, and they turn over, around 2 million a year. So I'd say that our gap would be 2 million to 14 million is like the businesses that we tend to work with. Yeah. The bigger the better, because, and I say this a lot to begin with, we've done a lot for everybody.
Yeah.
But these bigger clients, when we build a brand strategy, there's a lot of action points within that brand strategy. Like you need to go and invest in SEO, or you need to go and do a marketing event, or you need to be able to fly your clients over to the Philippines. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, like doing a marketing campaign overseas. So with the clients that appreciate what a brand is, appreciate that they need change, so they might still look the same as what they did 5 years ago, and they might have changed dramatically since. They might have lost market share. They might have been in a strong position, but then all these little fellas are coming in that are doing things a little bit quicker, and they're just taking little pieces away, and they're struggling to be able to be as agile because they are a little bit more cumbersome. But yeah, the businesses that we will work with, we will build a brand, we will build a brand strategy, but they need to be able to they need to be able to invest month on month with different specialists
Yep.
in order to make sure that that brand lives to its full potential. So
Makes sense.
working with businesses that turn over, I don't know, $500,000 to $1 million, and you're talking about taking 10% of your revenue away for the year,
Yep.
they might not be in a position to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They might focus more on bringing the people in that can do implementation in-house. But whereas the bigger businesses, that everyone in there, every piece of the puzzle is doing what they should be doing to move forward, that's when they bring in the specialists, and they appreciate the specialists, and they appreciate everyone is great at something.
Yeah.
And therefore they need that person to take them to where they need to get to.
Just made me think. I mean, so can you give me an example of a business that you've worked with, obviously without necessarily giving away names, where, you know, you've started with and you've done the work, and then what has it meant for them? I'd love to have like a case study if you like.
Okay. So I'd say one client that comes to mind straight away was a software business. Well, it's not a software business, it's a CRM supplier.
Right.
But they were seen as a software business. They had a whole bunch of products, and they'd go out to market and they'd sell solutions.
Yep.
So they might sell different pieces of software. But whenever they'd step into the room, like the people in the room would be like, oh, you're such and such from such and such. And the such and such that they were from was the name of the product that they sell.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it had nothing to do with the
them.
name of the business that they had.
Yeah.
And that was mainly because the minute you go onto their website and you look at who they are, there was zero clarity about what they deliver. There was nothing in there that outlined them as experts. There was just nothing of substance.
Mm-hmm.
It just looked it looked like an IT provider.
Right, yeah.
And that's not what they did. They were a software distributor.
Okay.
So what we ended up doing was we came up with a brand new name for the business, which was a solution-based name. So I don't know whether I'm allowed to give them a plug.
Yeah, please do. No, go for it. Yeah, as long as they don't mind. Yeah.
I've not spoken to them about it, but I think they'll be all right. So it's a company called Optimate Me. And Optimate Me is built to help businesses do optimization and automation through software. Okay. So anything a business does manually that a piece of software can deal with, this is where these guys come in and say, right, okay, this is what you have to do. But they'll build a very robust plan for your business. Yep. And then they'll bring in the key pieces of software that you need to use to make it all run. They'll implement it into the business. They'll guide you through all the usability of it. And they'll stay with you year on year to make sure that everything goes well. If there's any updates, upgrades, or different pieces of software that can work better, then it's kind of like picking stuff up, putting it in and doing that kind of stuff. They are experts. I remember the first meeting I had with them. They know so much about software. It went straight over my head. I was like, I don't know if I can help you guys. Like, what you're talking about is very difficult for me to be able to grasp. But that was the problem. Yeah. Like, they were so technical and so involved with the geekiness of the software and the efficiencies and the optimization and the automation that they weren't focusing on the customer. Right. So when they go in and they'd sell a product and they talk about the features and the benefits and all that kind of stuff, they were salespeople for the product. Yeah. They weren't experts in automated software. Yeah, solving problems. Exactly. Yeah. So what we ended up doing was developing a brand that the name spoke for itself. The delivery was based on that they are the experts in their field with what they do. Mm-hmm. There isn't one solution or one product that they offer that's going to change everything. It is very much a tailored solution using multiple platforms in order to increase the automation or optimization or productivity of your business. Mm-hmm. And we done that in a way that they could have the clarity to go out and be like, we are Optimate Me. Yeah. This is what we do. And this is how we do it. And these are the people that we've done it for. And they could utilize the video testimonials that we created with them. Yeah. We helped them I suppose we help them create all of their key messaging as well. They have personality.
Yeah.
They have personality aside from like the very technical aspect of their behavior. They have personality. Like the majority of blokes who they have banter with each other, so, and that is there in the room, and whenever they go to meetings, that is there in the room. That energy needed to be instilled in this brand that we created as well.
It's interesting, as we spoke about before we came on the podcast, there's a lot of people who just go out there and you can look at their competitors in the space and all of their websites will all look exactly the same. They'll say the same kind of thing and there's just no personality there. No. And yet people buy from people.
Yeah.
So, you need to be able to tell your brand story and have people who are part of your tribe who want to work with you.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that they've got something now that they are really proud of.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
When they go and see people now, no one calls them a product name. Everyone knows.
I'm curious what the product was, but we'll come back to that later.
Check them out.
Okay, we'll do. I definitely will. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Hey, Mark, if we want to get in contact with you and either pick your brains about, setting up a business or talk about their brand strategy, how do they get hold of you?
So many ways. I'd say the easiest way to get in touch with me is my email.
Right.
Because I'm on it most of the time.
How does your wife feel about that?
And that's Mark, which is MARC, at nimcreative.com.
Okay.
Failing which, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yep. And you're actually Marcjon Nimmo on LinkedIn.
It's a very unique name on LinkedIn, to be fair, but it's MARCJON, all one word, and Nimmo is NIMMO.
Yep, beautiful. Hey, look, thank you so much for coming in on your weekend to come and chat. It's been really fun. Really enjoyed learning about what you're doing and how you've kind of gone with your business. Hope it continues to grow and look forward to following you.
Thank you. No, it's been good. It's been good. My very first podcast.
I know. Well done. It was really enjoyable. Thank you, Mark.
Good. Thank you very much.